Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to take a close look at the new Mega 3 from Oupes. And not only that, in celebration of recently reaching that 50,000 subscriber milestone, we're actually going to be giving one of these Mega 3 power stations away to a lucky winner, since Oupes has so generously agreed to sponsor that event. Now, do be sure to watch until the end, and I'll tell you how to do what you need to do to enter that giveaway, and I'll also be telling you about my big oops with this particular Mega 3. Yeah, kind of a bonehead mistake on my part that hopefully I can help somebody else avoid. Anyway, let's run through the key specs on this thing and then we'll run it through the paces and see how well it performs. All right, so the Mega 3 does come with a variety of cables, including a car charging cable with an Anderson connector, and that connects on the side DC input, not the one on the front. That is output only. Comes with a nice beefy AC charging cable, so no charge brick. It also comes with a nice heavy gauge Anderson extension cable, I presume primarily for that front output there. It's also got another accessory cable for this Anderson output on the front. I believe this is to a DC 7909 accessory port. So just another way that you can adapt that. So it's nice that they give you these options right out of the box. Then it also does come with an Anderson connector. Again, this goes in the side, not the one in the front, to MC4 connector. So this is a basic solar panel adapter cable. So right off the bat, I'll tell you that the Mega 3 is actually just one of 3 different models that Oupes has in their new Mega series of power stations. There's also a Mega 2, which I'll be reviewing next month, and the Mega 5, which I think is aimed squarely at the home backup power system market. Now, the Mega 3 kind of straddles the line here between portable power station and home backup system. It's certainly portable in the sense that it does have these little roller wheels over here on the side, and on the other side it's got a little pull-out telescopic handle, which is nice for rolling it around easily, especially on smooth ground. But it is still 83 pounds, so it's really kind of pushing the limits of what you'd normally consider portable. It is manageable for one able-bodied person to lift it up onto a desk or into an RV, for example, but certainly much more manageable for 2 people. Now, the Mega 3 probably has the largest AC inverter that I've tested to date on something that is considered portable. It's got a pure sine wave AC inverter rated for a continuous 3,600 watts with a peak surge rating of up to 7,000 watts. And you can see here that on the front, in addition to these 5 AC outputs here, these 120 volt AC outputs, 3-prong outlets, it does have an RV30, also known as a TT30 connector, capable of outputting 120 volts at a full 30 amps, which is not something you often see in a portable power station. And most of the ones that do have an RV30 connector only support 20 amps on that output. But due to that massive 3,600 watt inverter, this Mega 3 can actually give you the full 30 amps for your RV or camper, or even a home backup switch, as we'll see later on in the video. Also on front, you've got the typical 12 volt 10 amp car socket. Up here, you've got a couple of 10 amp 12 volt DC 5521 accessory ports. And then over on the left side, you can see that there are a variety of USB ports. So you've got 2 PD 100 watt Type C ports. You've got 4 Type A ports. 3 of them are the quick charge, 18 watts, and one of them is the older style Type A port that is only 10 watts. And then just above the USB ports, it's got that Anderson style 12 volt 30 amp port, which is very handy for making direct DC connections if your RV or camper has a number of DC appliances. And I'll have more to say about this particular port later on. The Mega 3 packs a high capacity 3,072 watt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, and that means it's rated to maintain at least 80% of its original capacity, even after 3,500 full charge and discharge cycles, resulting in a very long functional service life that should be well over 10 years, even with daily use. And if you're wondering if this supports battery expansions, well, it actually does. Oupes now also makes a B2 multifunctional battery expansion for this, and you can connect at least 6 of those. I think the app suggests that you can connect quite a few more, but even at 6, that would allow you to expand up to a total capacity of over 15 kilowatt hours. And they call it multifunctional because, like the Mega 3, each B2 actually has its own DC 12 volt 30 amp Anderson output, basically this guy right here. And they've got also multiple USB-A and USB-C ports, a typical 12 volt 10 amp car socket, and some DC 5521 accessory ports. And you can actually solar charge each B2 expansion module directly with up to 2100 watts of solar because it's got its own built-in MPPT charge controller, which is a crazy amount of solar input. So the B2 battery expansion is basically a full-featured DC power station all by itself if you wanted to just operate independently from the Mega 3, which is very cool. Now, focusing back on the Mega 3, it also has a ton of other great features that you might be interested in, things like UPS mode, mobile app support. It's got variable AC charge rate with AC fast charging, dual charging via AC and solar charging, again, up to 2100 watts, just like the B2s, which again is a crazy amount of solar capacity. And as I previously mentioned, it weighs in at about 83 pounds, and it does have a 3-year warranty. Okay, enough talk. Let's see how this thing performs. All right, let's do an AC discharge capacity test. Now, this is rated for a total of 3,072 watt hours. So that's the massive battery capacity of this Mega 3. So let's find out how much we can actually get out of it if we're using the AC inverter. So I've got an oil heater here, and unfortunately it's going to be upside down because of the way the ports are oriented. We go ahead and turn on the AC inverter. We are fully charged at 100%. And that should start pulling power pretty much immediately. See, we're consuming just under 900 watts. Let me switch over here just so I can see here. And I don't know if you probably can't make this out because it's upside down, but it is 119.8 volts under load. So 120 volt output, very good. And let me switch that back to watt hours. And we will let this thing run all the way down and find out how many watt hours we actually got through the AC inverter. All right, this thing literally just shut down right before I started the camera, so we have completed the AC discharge capacity test. See, we're at 0%, getting an E002, which I'm sure is a low state of charge error. So let me plug this into a power source. Yeah, so we got 2,704 watt hours out of a rated 3,072. So that gives us just barely shy of 88% of usable capacity out of the AC inverter. And that's a very good number. That is above average. Average is about 80 to 85%. That is above average, nearly 88%. So very good numbers out of the AC inverter from this Mega 3. All right, now that we're down to 0% state of charge, let me connect some solar. This is my 800 watt solar array outside through the Anderson connector on the side, and it's nighttime out right now, so we're not going to get any charge. Let's find out if this thing will auto resume solar charging in the morning at basically at 0% state of charge. So we'll check back in the morning, maybe mid to late morning, and see if we're actually charging automatically or if we have to do anything to make it do that. All right, it has been raining pretty much non-stop up until about 15 or 20 minutes ago. So still some little droplets there on the bottom of the panels. The sun is trying to peek out behind the clouds, but we should be getting something on the panels now. So let's go in and find out if the Mega 3 was able to start charging. Well, it is charging. You can see it over there cooking right now. Get some lights on in here. Yeah, so it is charging. We're at, we're pulling in just about 500 watts. Cool. So, unattended solar charge in the morning definitely works on the Mega 3. All right, let's do a guitar amp test on this Mega 3. We're going to find out if we're able to power an amp with this unit without generating a lot of noise from the the quality of the AC output. So to test that, I've got my dusty old crate here. I'm going to plug it into grid power, and we are going to turn it on. And I'm going to boost this about 8 or 10 decibels, and I'm going to boost it by the same amount once we plug it in over here. So we're going to listen and see if there's any difference in the buzz that we get out of this versus when we power it from the Mega 3. So let me go ahead and turn it on. I'm going to leave all of the all of the dials at the same setting, and we're going to listen. Here we go. All right, so just a slight bit of hum from grid power. Let's find out if we get any more hum or any serious noise when we plug it in over here. Got the AC inverter on. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to boost the audio by the same amount as from grid power and see if there's a difference. All right, nice and quiet. I did not hear a difference standing right in front of it. So I would say that the Mega 3 passes the crotchety old guitar amp test. All right, I am in progress here doing a DC discharge capacity test. Now, because the Mega 3 does have an Anderson output over here on this little DC port stack, along with the USBs, kind of an interesting place to put that. I would have thought maybe it would have belonged over here, because there's two separate DC switches. But this one is a 30 amp out on this Anderson connector. So I'm going to use both testers. I'm going to add up the watt hours we get out of both of them. So I'm pulling 11 amps off this one currently. I could probably pull a little bit more, but this tester does have a limit on how much power you can pull out at one time. So I'm trying to be a little bit conservative with that. And then over here I'm pulling just under 10 amps. So 11.5 volts over here, and I've got 12.3 volts over here. So we will add these up once this thing shuts us down, and we'll find out how many watt hours we actually got out of the DC ports on this Mega 3. All right, DC discharge capacity test is done. Let's zoom in on the results here. Now what we got to do is we've got to add up the watt hours here, 1334.7 plus 1153.39. So if we add those two together, we get 2,488 watt hours. That's out of a rated 3,072. So that is a pretty respectable average, 81% of rated capacity out of the DC ports on this Mega 3. All right, let's do some load testing on this Mega 3. Now this is a 3,600 watt rated pure sine wave AC inverter, and this is one of the largest inverters I've tested in a portable power station, if not the largest, at 3,600 watts. And it has got a peak surge rating of 7,000 watts. So I'm going to struggle to get this all the way up to 3,600 watts, but I've got 3 space heaters hooked up, so I should be able to get there. And once we get it up to as close to 3,600 watts as possible, we'll then start a timer and we'll make sure it can sustain that for at least 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and start giving this thing something to run. I'm going to start with a space heater that kind of ramps up. All right, so we have capped out at just about 1,300 watts on this one space heater. So let me go ahead and add some additional load. We can really hear the fans kicking in. Let's check the fan volume here. All right, 60 decibels, and we're at just under 2,800 watts. So that's not too bad. All right, let's take this up a little higher. All right, that's gonna not quite get us to 3,500. Let me try a different combination. All right, let me add another space heater. This one's gonna peak just over a couple hundred watts addition. So this should take us to 3,600 and settle down very close to that. So there we are at 3,600. Let's start the timer. All right, 10 minutes at just about 15 watts shy of max. Definitely not a problem. Just real quick, while we got a full load on this, still pulling 120 volts. So really good output on this AC inverter. All right, let's try and push this thing a bit. Let's see where we can get it to cut off. All right, let me go ahead and kick on the space heater that does the ramp up, and we'll see where it actually cuts us off. All right, 35, 36, 37. So just over 37 and we get the overload. So just a tiny bit of headroom in there. Definitely you can handle the rated continuous spec of 3600 watts. But if you exceed that by much, we got to about 3700 watts, but only for a few seconds. And then we get the E27 overload error. And to reset it, it's actually pretty easy. Just cycle the, if I can turn one of these loads off, turn that back on, and we're off to the races. Immediately starts servicing the load. But yeah, no problems living up to the spec'd output of this AC inverter. So the Mega 3 definitely passes the load test. All right, so by default, the Mega 3 charges, as you can see, somewhere between 1800 and 2000 watts, a maximum of 2000 watts of AC charging. So nice, very fast charging on this Mega 3. Now, if you don't want to charge it that fast, what's interesting is that the mobile app for the Mega 3 does not give you the ability to vary the charge rate. However, they do give you a key combination. It's a little odd, but you know, once you figure it out, it's actually not terribly complicated. So basically what you have to do is, you can see we're charging in that 17 to 1800 watt range. So there's a little breaker on the side, and you can disable the AC input, and there's a separate breaker for the AC output. But you have to have all your inputs and outputs turned off before you can do this. And then you hold the IoT button and the left DC button at the same time until you get a set indicator. And I have trouble pressing these at the same time sometimes. So there's the set indicator, and now it defaults to low. You can kind of switch it. So high is max 2000 watts, low is max 1000 watts via AC. So if that's what I want, then I hold the power button for a few seconds, and it'll say SUC over here for success, and then hold it again on the power button, and it goes back. Now, when I click the breaker, or reset the breaker on the side to re-enable AC input, and I apologize for all the background noise, it's raining really hard outside, and I'm in my my metal barn workshop here. But you'll see that it caps out and it won't exceed 1000 watts. So I really like the fact that they do give you the ability to change that. I wish they didn't make it so cryptic. A simple on-off button would be nice, but it's really not complicated. You just got to remember the IoT and the DC button in order to turn that on and off. But now it'll charge at half the rate, and I don't have to stress the cells as much if I'm not in a hurry to charge this thing off grid power. All right, let's do a UPS test. Now this technically doesn't have like a commercial grade UPS, as most power stations don't, but they say this is emergency power supply. So they call it EPS, which is what some other power station brands also term this. But it's supposed to give you effectively UPS-like performance within about 20 milliseconds switchover. So not appropriate for mission critical, medical grade, or data center type applications, but certainly should be good enough for home, provided it works as billed. So I've got my sacrificial laptop over here with the battery removed. I'm running some disk benchmarking over here to give it something busy to work on while I'm doing it. I'm powering it through the AC inverter here on the Mega 3. So I'm going to simulate a power outage by pulling grid power here, which is currently inputting 941 watts. I do have this on low charge right now rather than fast charge. All right, so let me go ahead and simulate a power outage by pulling the grid power. All right, no hiccups on the laptop whatsoever. All right, and so if I try to unplug and replug this thing super fast, oh, that was a super lame attempt. But you see the laptop went out right away and doesn't come back on. And that is because I have the battery removed, and it is very sensitive to having power disrupted in any way. So UPS mode, or in this case EPS mode, confirmed. All right, as you can hear, I've got a furnace running in the background, and it's actually running off of the Mega 3. You can see we're pulling a total of 900 watts out of this, and since it's got a 3000 watt inverter, no problem. And I'm using the RB30 output here. You can see that's going over to this big black cable, and then I have an adapter here that is going to the 240 volt connector that I have on my manual transfer switch. Now I did just install that manual transfer switch. It's a 10 circuit manual transfer switch, and currently, if you can make that out, I'm only using the bottom 2 circuits for a 240, so they're tied with this little pin. I removed the pin on the upper one so I can use them as individual circuits. So I have basically got 8 120 circuits and then a single 240 volt circuit here, this bonded pair right there. And that is running my hot water heater, but I do not have that turned on because, and I'm using this adapter cable here, because this is not capable of outputting 240 volts. This is only a 120 volt system. But that's fine, because as you can see, I'm able to actually run all of the loads on my little cheat sheet here. So I've got my sewage pump, also known as a sump pump. I'm able to run my furnace, my master bedroom, all of my garage door openers, garage door outlets, which includes my garage fridge, all my kitchen lights, my dishwasher, kitchen outlets, all that stuff. Everything except the water heater, really. And this is a sub panel. I'm going to install one of these on my main panel. And by the way, if you're interested in seeing how to install one of these, I saved myself a ton of money. Basically, I was quoted by an electrician about $1,600 to install one of these at each of my 2 panels. So that would have been over $3,000 to install this on 2 different panels. Well, I spent about 450 bucks on this from Amazon and installed it myself. It took me about 2 hours, but that's because I hadn't done it before. and I wrestled with this conduit trying to get that the right distance, which is why that box is not centered on that board, which drives me nuts. But that's another story. But anyway, I was able to get this done. I think the next one I'll be able to install easily in about an hour. So I'm going to install another one on the main service panel. As I said, this one over here is a sub panel. So if you're interested in seeing how that's installed, I think I might do a video on that. But let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd like to see. But if you're at all comfortable with basic household wiring, you do not need to be an electrician to do this. You just need to be careful and be able to follow some fairly simple instructions. So very happy with this. You can see that my watt output has dropped now from 1,000 watts nearly to only 250, because I'm just now running some lights and stuff around the house. But the furnace itself consumes around 600 watts when it's running. So, but if I want to upgrade to something with 240 volts, then I've already got a transfer switch that can handle that. So this Mega 3 makes a really nice general purpose home backup system, portable home backup system at that, as long as you don't need to power 240 with it. So super happy with how this has turned out. All right, so let's wrap up. Having spent a solid 2 months playing around with this Mega 3, it's pretty clear to me that with the introduction of the new Mega series of portable power stations, Oupes intends to be a serious player, not just in the smaller capacity portable power station space, but also in the larger capacity and home backup power solution space. I think they recognize, like many of us do, that with the aging power infrastructure in many parts of the country, and a concerning upward trend in the frequency of power outages, there's just, an increasing market for home backup power solutions. And I do think the Mega 3 in particular is striking a pretty nice balance between portability and expandability, while also providing a number of other really welcome features like UPS mode, mobile app control, dual charging, and variable charge rates. Now there are a couple of improvements that I'd like to see. So first off, the mobile app is a nice start, but it remains fairly basic in its functionality. For example, it'd be nice if you could actually set the charging rate through the mobile app instead of having to do that series of manual steps that I showed earlier. And one other thing that I'd mentioned, it relates to the careless mistake that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and that is this 12 volt 30 amp Anderson connector here on the front of the unit. The fact that this unit provides a 30 amp DC output is excellent, especially if your camper RV has a variety of 12 volt appliances that you'd like to easily power from a single connection point. But, and maybe it's just because I'm frequently interacting with many different power station configurations, it would be very easy to accidentally mistake this Anderson output connector right there on the front of the unit with the solar input connection, which is on the side of the unit. And sure enough, while in a rush, I did exactly that. I accidentally plugged in my 800 watt solar array that is outputting 80 volts into this front 12 volt output connector. Now clearly that was my mistake, not Oupes' mistake. But I'm guessing at some point someone else is going to make that same mistake, since the solar input and the 12 volt 30 output both use the same Anderson connector. In hindsight, I think it probably would have been a better design choice if they had used maybe an XT60 connector on one of those and an Anderson on the other, just to make it a little less hard to make that mistake. Now that said, thanks to some good internal electrical component design, things are sufficiently isolated so that I only managed to fry the 12 volt 30 amp output. All of the other DC ports, outputs and inputs continue to work properly, much to my great relief. So the moral of the story is always make sure that you're connecting your solar input to the correct connector, and that just because a cable connector matches up to one on the front of the panel doesn't mean that that's necessarily the correct one. Now, in terms of pricing, Oupes has some great Black Friday deals going on right now and that applies to all of their products, including this Mega 3 and the Mega 2, which, as I said, I'll be reviewing that next month. But the Black Friday pricing on the Mega 3 is currently at $2,099, and the B2 expansion batteries are currently priced at $819. And that pricing will be valid until November 28th, 2023, in case you're watching this in the future. Okay, finally, let's talk about this awesome Mega 3 giveaway. To enter, you have to meet a couple of requirements. So first, unfortunately, you do have to have a US shipping address to be eligible. So I apologize if you're outside the US, but Oupes did make that an eligibility requirement for this particular giveaway due to, as you can imagine, the high cost of shipping something this heavy. Second, you need to click the like button on the video and be a channel subscriber. And then finally, you have to leave a comment below and include the word Oupes somewhere within that comment. And feel free to be creative with that, as I know some of you guys will most certainly be. And then 2 weeks from the day that this video releases, so that'll be Saturday, December 2nd, 2023 at 9 a.m. US Eastern Time, I will randomly select the winning comment and then verify that that winner has met the requirements. And after that, I'll reply directly back to that winning comment and provide further instructions on how to claim your prize. Now, please be aware that there are scammers out there trying to trick you into giving them money by pretending to be me. So a couple of things to be aware of. When I reply to your comment, you'll see this kind of shaded oval around my channel name. So you'll know that this comment is really for me and not a scammer. A scammer often looks like this, and this is a disgusting parasite trying to take advantage of unsuspecting viewers. But this is a comment back from me. And neither Oupes or me will ask you for any money, not for shipping, not for handling, nothing. This is a 100% free giveaway. So again, I'm sincerely grateful to all of you who are helping me grow my channel by watching and participating. And a big thanks to Oupes for sponsoring this awesome giveaway. And I wish everyone good luck. Oh, and definitely stay tuned for at least one more giveaway coming up here over the next week or so. I do hope you found at least something useful in the video. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that, and much appreciate it. If you're not already a subscriber, if you'd consider being one. So there are a bunch of interesting product and DIY videos on the channel already, and quite a bit more in the queue that are coming soon. And maybe you'll find something there to be helpful in some way. So thanks so much for joining me for this video. I really appreciate you stopping by, and I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.